Well, ladies and gentlemen, Notre Dame has declined a bowl game after they got snubbed from the playoff. They were ranked ahead of Miami every single week, even after the week one head to head loss. They were ranked ahead of them every week that the committee did rankings, I believe, until the final one. And the committee said, well, because of BYU's loss to Texas Tech, BYU moves way down, and that enables Miami to move up. Now it's a comparison between Miami and Notre Dame because they're ranked right next to each other. And that's when they decide to take the head to head into account. And that's something that Herb Strait was saying, other people were saying. I found it a bit ridiculous, but that's their argument. They say, well, we were not even looking at the head to head because Notre Dame was several spots above Miami. And so the head to head doesn't really factor in terms of ranking the teams, even if they have the same record. If Miami's 2 or 3 spots below Notre Dame, we don't factor the head to head in. But if BYU loses by 20 points to Texas Tech and BYU moves below Miami, now Notre Dame and Miami are back to back. Now, because they're back to back, we can factor in the head to head, which was Miami over Notre Dame, although it happened in week one and the game was at Miami and it was only a 3-point win, although it was a game in which Notre Dame had to come back. We won't get too much into it, but Notre Dame is pissed off, and it's gotten to the point now that they've just straight up declined an invite to a bowl game. They were going to go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and they were going to have to take on BYU, and they're saying we're not doing it. And you just have to wonder, I mean, at this point, Jeremiah Love, obviously going to the NFL, there would be question marks on his availability, probably wouldn't be available. Maybe a few other players. Does Notre Dame say, you know what, we should have made the playoff. We're not going to do this thing where half of our team isn't playing and we lose to BYU and we kill our program momentum going into the offseason. That's probably what they're thinking. And more so, it might just be a protest because they think they definitely deserved a spot and they didn't get one. And there's a bigger picture and there's a bigger issue in terms of college football and the way in which they do the auto bids. Are we looking at a future of college football where the auto bids are no more? Because you've got that 11th and 12th spot being taken up by 2 teams that are both multiple touchdown underdogs in round 1. I can see both sides of it. And this year, obviously, it was an aberration. The team that won the ACC had 5 losses. The only reason they made the ACC championship was because of like a 4-way tie at 6-2, and they had 3 non-conference losses or whatever. But still, the number 11 and number 12 seeds, those games are not going to be good. They're not going to be competitive, or at least I wouldn't expect them to be competitive. And so you have to wonder, what is the next alter that's done? Because remember the last alter they did, they said, well, let's put an onus on the conference championships. And if you win the conference championship game, you get a bye. Like the top 4, the Power 4 teams are all going to get byes. That was the original thought. Then they say, well, that's the Big Ten and the SEC are so much better than all the other conferences. We're not going to do that. And now you've got 2 Big Ten teams with byes. Because under the format last year, Ohio State would have had to have gone down to the number 5 seed. But now they're not doing that. But they still have the auto bid. They say, well, if you're a conference champion, it's the top 5 conference champions. That's what they say. So the top 5 conference champions overall. And because the ACC and Duke are so bad this year, even though honestly, like you could argue that Duke would give Oregon a better game than like James Madison. I mean, but they have 5 losses. They're not going to put them in. So this is like a wider issue. And so the next change to the college football playoff likely will be tinkering with the auto bids, the conference auto bids. What are they going to do with that? I do think this year, the way it worked out was obviously very bad. You look at this, James Madison taking on Oregon. Do we have a spread? We've got a spread. It's at 20.5. This is the first round playoff game. Now, Oregon is hosting it. So that's going to expand the spread an extra 3 points because the game is at Oregon. Tulane at Ole Miss. This game already happened earlier this year. It was a very easy win for Ole Miss. Now they're without their head coach. Maybe it's a little bit closer. And there's going to be a heavy double-digit spread in that game as well. I don't know why the spread isn't listed. You've got a close spread between Bama and Oklahoma, but it's probably going to be a low-scoring defensive game. And then you've got, this is probably going to be the best game. The times of these are very strange. This game is starting at noon, A&M versus Miami. I was kind of zoning in on this being the best game around 1, and it's taking place at noon. and you've got the James Madison Oregon game with a 20.5 point spread at 7:30. But either way, you do have to wonder, Notre Dame, I mean, I can kind of understand when you look at their situation with their running backs both being draft eligible, Love and Price. If they don't play in this game, what if they lose to BYU? Then does that kind of taint the entire idea of Notre Dame? Remember what happened with FSU? They said we should be in. They were 13-0. They went undefeated. They won the ACC. They didn't have Jordan Travis. The committee said no thanks. Then they got destroyed by Georgia. And then they said, well, we were missing all of our players. But it kind of tainted their season. So Notre Dame's looking at this saying, well, we've got draft eligible players that are at impact positions. They're not going to want to play in a meaningful exhibition game. We're just going to go home. We're not interested. And the thing is if you miss the playoff, you're going to a pretty crappy game. You're going to the Cheez-It Bowl, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I mean, they're decent bowls involving ranked teams. But it used to be when it was a 14 playoff, if you missed the playoff, you potentially still could go to the Rose Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl. Well, that's out the window now. Now you're looking at the Pop-Tart Bowl, the Cheez-It Bowl, the Outback Bowl. And so Notre Dame is like, we're just not doing it. And even like, this is another thing. Do they expand it now to 16 teams? You got people on ESPN saying they need to expand it. This is the year they should have expanded it. We want to see, you want to see BYU in. I mean, honestly, you look at a team like BYU. Do I think they're one of the 12 best teams? No. But I mean, they did go 11-2. Like, they're a team you could put at number 14 or number 15. And if it's a 16-team playoff, they can make the playoff. But at this point, this is the other issue. If you extend it to 16, then we're going to be arguing that the number 17 team should make it. That's the other problem. Right now, I think their biggest issue is the way they do these auto bids. Because, and by the way, you want to know another problem? It's the neutral site host locations. And this is something to where it's like, okay, you can still call it a neutral site, but you've got Ohio State, the number 2 seed. They have to go to Texas. Imagine Texas A&M beats Miami. So we're going to give basically Miami a de facto home game as the 7 seed against the 2 seed. How does that make sense? You look at Georgia. Georgia's the 3 seed. They're going to be playing in the Sugar Bowl. What is that? Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. So how does the 3 seed get better treatment than the 2 seed? Where is the northern location to host one of these big games? Why isn't Lucas Oil a host? You know, Ohio State, they said, well, you could either host, you could either go to the Cotton Bowl or the Orange Bowl. So you're going to go to the Orange Bowl and possibly face Miami, because the Orange Bowl is, at Miami's home stadium. They need new host locations. They need northern host locations, whether it's Minneapolis and their new stadium, US Bank Stadium, or Lucas Oil, because a team like Ohio State is just getting screwed here. The Fiesta Bowl is fine in Arizona if they have to face Georgia. I thought there was a chance that the Peach Bowl, remember that game in 2021, Ohio State had to go to the Atlanta, Georgia to face Georgia in the Peach Bowl. But no, they got lucky. The Fiesta Bowl is in Arizona. But I just thought I think that's a bit ridiculous. How is the number 2 seed possibly going to be playing? It's not a road game. It's still a neutral site, but it's pretty close to A&M, with it being in Arlington. Now, obviously, if Miami wins, then the point is mute. It doesn't matter. So I think that's another thing that they need to work out. They need to change it. They need to allow the team, wherever you want to go. Ohio State, you would figure they would want to go to the Sugar Bowl. If you're facing either Miami or A&M, play the game in Atlanta, Georgia. Because then you could easily get a 50-50 crowd, maybe better. But if you're playing A&M in Arlington, Texas, that's a bit of a problem. And you're the 2 seed and they're the 7 seed. So that's another thing that's kind of interesting there. But that happened last year as well with Ohio State facing Texas. But I think Texas was the higher seed. So I can understand the higher seed getting the better position in terms of the geography. But yeah, Notre Dame is not happy. And listen, this is one of those things to where you can kind of see both sides. You really can. And I don't think, and everyone's like, well, Notre Dame needs to join a conference. I don't know if that's what this was. Think about it. Miami did not play in a conference championship. Miami and Notre Dame both played 12 games. It wasn't like Miami won their conference title to vault above Notre Dame. Notre Dame already has 2 losses. There's a lot of teams that have 2 losses that didn't even make their conference title games. It's not like, if Notre Dame would have been in a conference and played in a conference title game, they would have made it. Now, I guess if they would have won a conference title, then yes. But if you have 2 losses, the chances are you're probably not even in your conference championship anyways. So I don't think this is as much of the committee saying you need to join a conference. Because again, Miami didn't make their conference championship. They got in as an at-large. Notre Dame, every time they make the playoff, it's as an at-large independent team. So Miami got in the exact same way Notre Dame would get in. It's not like Miami got in because there's the auto bid spots. That's the number 11 and number 12 seed, the 2 group of 5 teams. So I don't know if it's as much as that because we're comparing teams. We're comparing at-large spots is what we're doing. Now, obviously, if Notre Dame was 10-2 and they did make their conference championship game and they won it, yeah, they'd be in the playoff. So I don't know. I just think for Notre Dame, I mean, for the FPI number 3 team not to make it, but Miami's number 7. I mean, Miami, they're right there. Strength of schedule, Notre Dame's strength of schedule this year, Miami's strength of schedule, neither of them were very good. So now you're starting to compare, and that's when you get into the whole what playoff rankings. Let's see the AP top 25. Wow, the AP, yeah, this is another thing that was, honestly, I'm surprised. Georgia being behind Ohio State. You can see in the AP, they put, Georgia was in front of Ohio State. Georgia's a 12-1 team. They're SEC champions. I think they have better wins than Ohio State. So I was kind of expecting Ohio State to fall to the 3 line. And then you get Ole Miss in the second round without a coach. But then they keep Ohio State at number 2. For what reason? Why would Ohio State be number 2? That doesn't really make sense to me. Georgia is a conference champion of the SEC. That's the deepest league. Ohio State didn't even win their conference title game. Their wins are a bit more flimsy. That's why I expected Ohio State to drop to number 3. Pretty obvious. I mean, the points are very close. It's 550 versus 538. So it's not a big difference. This is the AP poll. Obviously, it doesn't really matter. It matters for historical purposes, but in terms of the actual this year, that does, there's not a lot of relevancy to it. Notre Dame finishes number 9. Part of the reason, well, they had Miami and Alabama behind Notre Dame. The AP did. The committee has Notre Dame behind both. So, and then BYU is sitting at number 12 in both. The AP poll had Vanderbilt in front of Texas. The committee had Texas in front of Vandy with 1 more loss. They did have the head-to-head over Vanderbilt. James Madison moves up 1 spot. You can see Tulane, the 11 seed, James Madison, the 12 seed. And that's basically it. So Notre Dame, honestly, for their program, I'm not very surprised. Well, I didn't expect them to do this, but if you're going to be without some of your best players, do you really want to play in this game, lose it to BYU, and then have BYU with all the bragging rights when your players didn't play? I mean, the teams dealt with this over the last 3 years, even before it expanded to 12 teams, where they'd be playing in the New Year's 6 games without half their team. Then they'd lose, and it's like, well, this is terrible. I mean, we don't have our team. What do you want us to do? So you have to think about that if you're Notre Dame. They're saying they're doing this because if it's a protest, it's a farce. They think they should have made it. And it's one of those things to where I understand, the analytical rank is very high for Notre Dame. I get it. But it is an issue in terms of there's really no big win here. I mean, the USC win is pretty much the USC win and the Pitt win. Did Pitt finish ranked? No, I don't think they did because they lost to Miami. So the USC win, the number 16 team in the country, that's their big win. You look at Miami, they obviously have the win over Notre Dame. That's a better win. But even, I mean, their resume is not very good either. But I mean, they have the head-to-head. That's a better win, obviously, than what Notre Dame has, and they're tied. And it's not like either strength of schedule is very good. So I would have put Notre Dame over Miami personally. The issue is it's a week 1 game and it's a 3-point win, and it was if it was a neutral site game, maybe I would put Miami over Notre Dame. But Miami had the home field advantage in that game. And it was week 1. I mean, if it was week 7 or week 8, it's a different story. If it's week 1, I have to take that into account. The context of it's important in terms of how the teams are progressing throughout the year. There is a point to where people would be really pissed though because then they'd be like, what's the point of even playing a game? Why even play if the head-to-head is meaningless? Well, the head-to-head matters for sure, but there's other data points that matter as well. Either way, guys, that's just the current situation. By the way, another thing that's kind of, Ole Miss being in front of A&M seems a bit strange to me. I don't know. Maybe that's like legitimate. I don't know where where's the FPI? Because to me, it felt like I thought this would have been Power of College Football Index. A&M's at number 10. Ole Miss is at 12. I guess you got to strength of record and see. Ole Miss at 6. A&M at 3. I'm surprised that A&M is at 7 and Ole Miss is at 6. Overall strength of schedule 16, Ole Miss 41. Game control A&M 7, Ole Miss 10. Ole Miss has a better average win. I think that's average win percentage or something. Yeah, that is weird to me. That was really last week when A&M lost to Texas and they fell that much. I guess you could say the overall wins for Ole Miss are better. Ole Miss has a win. Man, even Ole Miss's schedule, man, these SEC teams, they've got a lot of good teams in that conference, but they miss a lot of good teams. They lost to Georgia. They beat Oklahoma. That's it. I mean, the win against LSU obviously is not as meaningful now. And then you look at, the thing with A&M is they legitimately have beaten nobody outside of Notre Dame. Yeah. So that is a really weak, in terms of SEC conference play, that's a weak schedule. So maybe that's why. To me, it's just like, it seems pretty clear cut, like A&M has better metrics across the board. They both have one loss. It's not like they have a head-to-head comparison, like A&M lost the head-to-head or anything. So I'm surprised. I would figure A&M would be 6 and Ole Miss would be 7, especially with the context of the coaching situation with Lane Kiffin leaving. That's another one that's kind of surprising to me. But either way, the point is, it looks like Notre Dame is, they're pissed off. They're not too happy, and they're not playing in a bowl game. Guys, make sure you like the video down below. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you for watching.